Welcome to How's Your ePresence? I'm Mark Galvin, your host for How's Your ePresence, and I'm the founder and president of the company ePresence. As you know by now, this is a show that we focus on business and social media. So our whole goal here is to give you some tips or some new ideas on things you should know about how to run your business using social media. How can you get a better ROI on social media? What are some things that maybe you haven't thought about on LinkedIn, or ways that you can leverage your own personal LinkedIn page to reach a better, larger audience? So that's our goal here on How's Your ePresence. Glad you're here. Part of what we do every week or every time we have one of these shows is we're going to talk about some things that are going on in the news and have a wonderful guest. Here's something important to share, a little news tease. The news today that we found that I think is really interesting is we've seen this on Facebook where you have that post that comes up from your company page and it says, boost this post. You're getting great reach here. Let's reach more people. And we're going to talk about whether you should hit that button and boost that post. But before we get into all those great things, I want to ask you guys to do me a favor. Make sure you are subscribing to our show. So somewhere on here, we're going to get there we go. So I always do that the wrong way. There, if you would, right below us, hit subscribe on YouTube. And the reason is because we are here always trying to grow our reach on How's Your ePresence. And, the funny thing is when you do live shows, amazing things happened. My phone was ringing in my ear on my laptop. So I always love that. So anyway, subscribe helps us reach more people. So when we go live, you get a notification that we've gone live. Fantastic. So once you've done that, we're going to get into the news. The first thing I want to do is share our guest today. And I am very excited to welcome Dalia Kinsey to the show. Dalia, are you there? There she is.
I'm here. I'm so glad to be here. I'm excited to hear about this news. I boosted something yesterday.
Oh, outstanding. This is terrific. Well, you and I connected not that long ago and had a chat about social media. And you are very good at using social media to expand your reach and do the great things that you're doing. Not everybody may know who you are. So we know you as a school nutrition specialist. What does that mean? What is a school nutrition specialist?
That basically, I've gone through special training to make sure I understand what the USDA rules are for how we run the National School Lunch Program in the United States. So it's a lot of red tape, a lot of regulations, There's always things changing in DC. So I basically keep up with that and make sure that our funding is intact and we keep feeding kids.
Wow. So, and I guess whenever we're doing something that's a little more intense and you've got large government entities involved, they're very interested in trying to make sure that that you're meeting certain requirements. And so you help people meet those requirements?
Exactly. I help keep programs compliant, and I work with the school district as well. And that's one of the big things that I do there. But I also do a lot of nutrition ed before COVID anyway. It'll be interesting to see what next school year looks like. I think a lot of my duties will be changing. We're trying to figure out how to feed people without having any contact with them and continue documenting everything the USDA wants us to document. So it makes sense. If you give someone a bunch of money, you want to know what did they do with it. That's essentially what all the paperwork is about. What did you do with the money?
You bet. It makes total sense. And I know there was a huge issue this year with everybody going from home. The schools were closed. That there were some kids who one of their main meals was at school and they were not getting fed. I'm sure that was a big question on how do we manage this piece. Because some of these students, they're just not getting those food. And I saw that some of the local, so we're in Atlanta, some of the local organizations, school districts were having a lunch program so people come on and get lunch. Was that pretty common across the country?
Yes, absolutely. Depending on what type of district you're in, the income level of your students kind of informs whether or not you thought they would be suffering from hunger while the school was closed.
Sure.
And in our area, it's been interesting because the government really did step up and focus on the kids they thought were the most vulnerable. But then again, that affects our numbers. So if you got a boost in your SNAP benefits, then maybe you don't really need the school lunch that you typically are so dependent on. So we went out all over the city to feed our kids, and the need wasn't quite as high as we thought. But the kids that do need us are the ones who are in families where the parents are in between. So, like,
Right.
both parents work and they're low income, but they're not low income enough to qualify for any other help. So, a lot of those kids are really hungry. And if we don't come feed them, they might not eat. Sometimes the parents will just skip meals.
Wow.
It's not a
Unbelievable.
great situation.
No, absolutely not. So you got into this because you're a registered dietitian and you've always looked at, it sounds like you like to look at health and food and how do you blend those to help people have not only just good diet, but healthy living, I'm guessing. Does those things kind of blend together?
Exactly. So I was in public health, and the goal in public health is to help people who already have an issue kind of
Oh,
mitigate the
sure.
damage. But you know how adults are stuck in their ways, and
I have no idea what you're talking about.
it's hard to help somebody who's not ready to be helped. And I'm sure even when you're trying to help people as a consultant, you see this all the time. Somebody wants to give you the money and for you to magically make the problem go away without them having to do anything,
Oh my
which is
goodness, yeah.
not how it works. So I basically got bored with adults and decided it'd be more fun to intervene with kids because they're more malleable. If you make it fun, they're so enthusiastic. So the elementary school students are my favorite, trying to establish healthy habits early, trying to teach cooking skills early, things that'll take them through life so that they don't go to college and wonder, what to do. So many kids go to college and gain a ton of weight because they've never had to feed themselves before. So it's just more helpful to work with them early.
I thought kids went to college and gained weight for other reasons, but forget that.
Well, it's true. There's so much that goes into it. But,
Sure.
I've met college students who didn't know how to change a light bulb, really and
goodness.
truly. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things you forget to tell children how to do. And some kids don't know how to boil water. They don't know how to boil an egg. So we want to cut those problems out so that they don't have those kind of issues.
That's great. And I would also think if you're working with the younger group, you can make a true difference in their lives. So
Right.
if they're an adult and they're already in that space where they are stuck in their ways, if you get them at a younger age, it can be life-changing, I'm guessing.
Right. And adults have other problems. They have other things on their mind. And sometimes we put health on the back burner, even though it supports everything else you want to do.
Right.
It improves cognitive function. So it makes it easier for these kids to study. It makes it easier for them to behave because everyone knows what it feels like when you're super hangry and the meeting just won't end. Imagine being a child who's supposed to be nice and listen to adults, and you're really, really hungry because your parents didn't feed you in the morning. You have to get yourself to the bus because both of your parents work. It just helps with everything in the academic setting. Sometimes I think we underestimate how important it is. And it's important for professionals and entrepreneurs to be well fed. It helps with energy. It makes you think clearly. It's something we really shouldn't overlook. And it can be like a special ace in the hole that you have that other people don't have if you pay some attention to it.
Yeah, and it is one of those interesting things that it's easy to disregard how important good food is. I can certainly vouch for that. Grabbing something that's quick and it's easy, is convenient. And if you're moving fast and you got too many other things going on, stopping and making something that's good for you is a little more difficult.
Yeah.
Well, so you are our studio audience for our news item. So we're going to talk about the news, and I'd love to get your feedback about this because you'll help bring in some feedback that we haven't thought of. So here's the news. As I teased before, should you boost a Facebook post? Have you ever done that?
I have. I did it this week. I've done it a couple of times, and I wasn't too thrilled with what my analytics showed me. But my audience is so niche, even though I love that they try to help you target who you want to communicate with. It wasn't specific enough for me in the past, but now that I have more followers, you can boost it to the people who follow your page and their friends. And
Right.
so since they all work, not all of them, but so many of them work in the same field, and I narrowed it by age group, I think I'll be targeting more of the people I actually want to target, but we'll have to see. It's only been boosted for
Yes.
one day so far.
Well, good. So what's really interesting is I ran across this. It was a post by, what's this gentleman's name? Patrick Fransco, and it's in a magazine called the Window Film Magazine, and we'll post the link in the show notes. But he brings up a very interesting point, and that was he'll meet with folks, and he's from an agency that works on running ads. He runs into a lot of clients who say, hey, I spend a lot of money on Facebook, but I'm getting no ROI. And a lot of it happens because people go in, they see those Facebook boosting opportunities. And typically there's a post that's performing well. Why don't you push us to more? Because it looks like people like it. And it's it can be $10, it can be $100, but it's really not overly expensive to boost at times. Well, he makes a very good point, and you kind of drilled into some of this when you talked about your example and reaching your, I call it a lookalike audience from the folks that are already following your page. And here's a quote he said. He said, this might seem odd advice coming from someone that owns an agency that has a specialty in Facebook and Instagram ad buying, but hear me out, he says. While he fully advocates paid advertising, doing so without a plan is a bad idea. And this is the problem. It's sort of, I'd call it the impulse buy. It's like when you're walking up and down the grocery store and you got the end caps, and the end caps always have M&M products on it. And I love M&Ms. So I'm walking past, I'm like, I need those. That's sort of what happens when you land on a Facebook post and you say, gosh, I should boost this. And you boost it and it doesn't support a plan. It's not a good idea because you may be sharing a message that may be a little off kilter from what you really are interested in saying. So the idea is, and his point is well taken, create a plan, sit at the beginning of the year, write your plan for the year. What do I want to say? When do I want to say it? Build your calendar and then modify that calendar every quarter because things change, right?
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah, but it will
Especially
help
this quarter.
you. Yeah, it'll help you. Exactly. It'll help you stay on message. Okay, so for us, as an example, we're really interested in boosting our training. So through coronavirus and all the other things where people are working at home now for the most part, we're trying to do more webinars. And that's why you see that ticker going across the bottom of the screen. We're focused on that. So what we need to do is make sure we're pushing any type of advertising that's focused on that. Well, so let's say we get a boost that suggests that we should talk about TikTok. Well, that's kind of off message. Right. And it may not be reaching the audience because we've been building an audience focused on LinkedIn. All of a sudden we shift to TikTok. Well, that LinkedIn audience doesn't care about TikTok. In fact, they don't even know what TikTok is. So developing a plan and following the plan is a good idea. So with your boost that you have that you're running now, you boosted that how many days ago?
Just one.
So it was yesterday you boosted.
Yes.
Okay. How many people is it supposed to reach? Do you remember that number?
It really was only it was supposed to potentially reach 160,000 people.
Okay. And only 160,000.
But in reality, I think every day it's more like 1,000 or so. Okay. But my organic engagement with it as of yesterday was far greater because right now this year, my focus is really building the audience for my podcast. Because I have money coming in from other sources and I'm happy with how those things are doing. I'm really focusing on building the audience because I have projects in mind and I have monetization ideas for the podcast that won't be possible without that audience. So it has been difficult, in my mind anyway, figuring out what content really supports that. I want to make sure I'm promoting or advertising things that are indicative of what you can expect should you become a listener. Not one subject that did really well, but doesn't really connect to the rest of the shows.
Sure.
And you're right with the impulse buy. It is so tempting. Obviously, they designed it that way and it's very effective.
Sure.
The way it pops up, and it's so seamus to get that money to come out. All you have to do is press a button. Exactly. So I have really been working on the concept of knowing what my mission is for every quarter and trying to continually check in with whether or not I'm still on mission. But I was majorly thrown by coronavirus because I had so much content related to specific events that were happening in the professional community that all get canceled.
Sure.
And so I love making plans so much. It was really hard to just let it go and accept that those episodes didn't make sense for how the landscape had changed.
Yeah, and this is an important thing, and things happen and things change the way their direction or the direction you want to go in, and we do balance that. Where do you want to go, and where can you get the best return?
Right.
And trying to balance those are important. But you do have to sit back in every quarter, and sometimes it's not in the quarter, but you've got to look at where are we going, how are things going, and do we need to shift things at all? Here's what we found at ePresence is that what we talk about today impacts us in 3 to 4 months. So we're constantly looking ahead. Okay, what's going to happen in 3 months? So for example, in December, we'll talk about you need to clean up your LinkedIn profile. And we'll start talking about then. Why? Because people will start looking to change jobs in February, March, April because of bonuses. Because executives will get bonuses at the end of the year. They're, okay, here's your bonus, and then it's paid out January, February, March. Well, in that period, they'll look for another job. Shh, don't tell anybody that they're looking for a job. But they're out there looking for a job. So we know that we need to talk to those people starting in November, December, because of that timing as it feeds into that window. So when you have something like the coronavirus pop up, and you have the protests with George Floyd pop up, it does there's a whole different focus now with people that are potential buyers, right? Where are they? What are they thinking about? And you've got to figure out how you connect with them. And we could not. Well, I guess we could have. We might have been able to guess in December that we would probably be hit with a coronavirus, and the smart people that had something that could connect to that could have advertised earlier. But we really didn't. There's not really a good way of anticipating what was going to happen with George Floyd and the protests that came up with that. So trying to anticipate that, you can't. You got to shift gears. Like, okay, we're in a whole new position now. How do we change our targeting and our advertising to be, well, you don't want to be, our director of social media loves to say this. You don't want to be tone deaf.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the term that comes to mind.
Yeah. And you can be. You're out there talking about one thing, and everything in culture is heading in another direction. Okay, you may have to shut down a whole campaign.
Right.
And I know this happened. What was it? There was I can't remember the company that owns the brand Aunt Jemima. Did you hear about this?
I think that this is an excellent example, though.
Yeah.
I don't know how other people are reading it. And for anyone who's just listening to the audio of this, I am Black, in case you can tell. You probably couldn't tell. I've heard people have said that. Anyway, so I personally, I know I can't speak for all Black people. Black people aren't a monolith. No one is. Everyone's got their own views. But I think it's ridiculous and an empty gesture to act like you just noticed that image was a little sketch in 2020. You may as well do nothing and write it out, and maybe do it when you don't obviously seem to just be motivated by profit, not actually realizing this is not in step with where we are as a country at this point. It seems tacky, and I'm unimpressed. And the Uncle
So
Ben's folks are in the same camp, in my
I
opinion.
will tell you. Well, here's what's funny is I'm an avid reader of the Wall Street Journal. In fact, I get the little notifications that pop up. So I'm there on my phone, and it pops up, and I can't remember the company that owns them, Kellogg's or something, a major company, a huge organization owns them, and it pops up and it says that they've decided to change the name, and she has her image, whoever Aunt Jemima is, and there could have been a real person, I suppose, but they're going to drop there from the front of the syrup bottle. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't even realize. And the shame is, and it's certainly because I'm white, right? If you're listening, and well, as soon as it came, I was like, of course that's bad. Like I can't
Right.
believe that
We're
it
so
has
used
been
to
out
seeing
there
it.
so long that they realize, oh, now it's a good time to change it. That should have gone decades ago.
And I think it would have been more meaningful had it been done previously.
Right.
So now it just looks like what you really care about is the almighty dollar, not the feelings of your
Oh, good
customers.
point.
And so it's like, if your goal was to
Yeah.
appear like you're in step with the changes that are coming about, I don't know, to me, it comes across as insincere.
Yeah,
Because
that's a
I
good
know,
point.
like, even think about the Band-Aids used to say flesh colored, and that was changed prior to all this
Right.
because they weren't flesh colored. They were pink or peach.
Right.
They didn't match me,
That was right.
but
They were
that's already
flesh
been
colored for
changed.
some people.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. But I don't think there was any major movement to make them change it. Just somebody
Wow.
realized, like, yeah, this isn't, this,
Maybe
let's
we
go
shouldn't
ahead.
call it that. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Remember the flesh colored crayons? Like it was the whole thing. I mean, that's the atmosphere that I was raised in. So I'm used to, I'm not saying I haven't purchased Aunt Jemima syrup.
Right. Right.
I roll my eyes at the image and I keep it moving because I'm
Yeah.
just used to seeing so many things that pretend I don't exist as a consumer.
So I think this is very interesting. And when Dalia and I connected before I invited her on the show, we had a robust conversation. I think we actually talked for over an hour.
Yes,
This
that's
show's
true.
only 30 minutes. So I got to move on. I think we could talk about this a lot more because to me it's really interesting when the intersection of culture and at least being aware of where things, well, quite frankly, you just need it, you need to do business in a way where you honor people. That's just period. You should just honor people. And people is not one group of people, it's all people.
Right.
So how do you do that? And then, and every day that they're bottling Aunt Jemima, I am sure someone should have been saying, yeah, this is bad, right?
Right.
This is
And
certainly
surely someone did. So I guess the question is, are the lines of communication open in your organization and do they flow in both directions?
you bet.
Because it maybe was someone who wasn't a decision maker who said it was an issue and
Well,
the message didn't travel.
diversity of management helps speak to these things, and then you got to be able to listen to that person. So don't put the person who's not going to speak up on your management team because you're looking at diversity, but you don't want them to talk.
Right.
You need the person on your team, and that is including both men, women, and all races that you represent. If I sell to all races, I need to have all races represented on my team because you need to hear their voice. Because they could
Right.
have said, "Hello, we need to change this branding. This is horrible."
This is true. Very
Anyway,
true.
that
It
drives
makes
me
your
crazy.
organization stronger. It protects your bottom line. It's not, diversity isn't just a nice to have. It's something that's going to set organizations apart.
Right.
And some organizations are going to make it and some aren't. If you have to be adaptable, you have to always be changing if you're thriving in business. And we're so globalized at this point. If you think you could only think about one type of person as the one you're communicating with when you develop your marketing plan, you're not going to make it.
That's a problem. That's a serious problem. All right, so I got a couple of questions I want to throw at you, really about social media, which because you are certainly harnessing it well. And one of the things that you do is you have figured out how to adapt your content across platforms. And how do you do that? what is that? What is that groundswell? Where does it start from the beginning, and then have you seen that turn into something that you've been able to harness?
Yeah. I listen to Gary Vaynerchuk a lot. I just love his energy. And one of the things
Yes,
he
boy, he's got some
suggests,
energy.
he has so much energy, is creating something that's long form, like a podcast,
Sure.
and then using that to break it down into smaller bits of content that you can use different places.
Mhm.
But then to do that effectively, you have to know what the platforms you're posting on like what does native content look like there, so you don't just, there are little gadgets and apps you can use that allow you to share one post multiple places, but it may
Mhm.
not tailor it to every platform.
Right.
So it helps to be a person who uses all of those and look at how people manage their content on those platforms. So I've started using TikTok, and Gary Vaynerchuk's on TikTok too, and he still uses that same process of the long format, but then just posting very small snippets where the message is right there. You don't have to do any work to get to it. But then I've noticed on Instagram, people now are really looking for it to be a place that you do like a mini blog. So just posting a picture and one line doesn't really seem to be the thing on Instagram now. It's almost a full blog post, a couple of paragraphs. People who follow you there are more likely to want to read more from you. Whereas on TikTok, the messages are meant to be very, very brief. So it's like a couple of sentences of wisdom and you're out.
That is just brilliant. And so for for all of you listening, there's a lot there that you just covered, Dahlia, and you know that. And this is your sweet spot. And this is why it's great to have you here. You said a couple things. Number one, you said something about being posting natively. Tell me what natively means.
So LinkedIn's a great example. They want you to stay on the platform.
Yes, they do.
So posting links there of work you've done elsewhere isn't going to be as effective as writing an article on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
It could be content you've used elsewhere, but you need to actually build it in the platform
Right.
and share it from there. And then if you are lucky enough to be one of those people who can broadcast live on LinkedIn, it's not me yet.
Yes. We're both in that boat.
You want to do it there. Like that seems to, they reward you for keeping people on the platform. But
Yeah.
what I do
So
like about, yeah, go ahead.
LinkedIn is arguably the social media site where you can get the largest organic reach. And organic reach, for those of you who don't know that term, it means that if you post something, you can reach more people without having to pay for it. Organically, you can reach more people. So if I have a video, like let's take this, we could take this YouTube slash Facebook feed that we have and we could carve it up into smaller pieces and we could push it directly to LinkedIn and drop it as a video on LinkedIn. If you do that, the algorithm is going
Uh-huh.
to like it more and share it to more people, enhancing that organic reach. Now, there's something interesting when you talk about organic reach on LinkedIn. I was taking video and dropping it in groups on LinkedIn. So I'd take a piece and I would go to a bunch of groups and drop it there.
Those groups are dead. I don't know
Oh
what
my
is
God, it was a
up
waste
with
of
those
time.
groups on
Oh,
LinkedIn because groups on Facebook right now are really, really effective.
mm-hmm.
So I don't know
Absolutely.
what the difference is there.
So I think what's fascinating with the way these two platforms work, and what's important here is that you realize that they're two different platforms, and
Right.
that one best practice is not going to apply well to the other best practice. So you
Absolutely.
go into Facebook and you get into Facebook groups and share your content there, you're going to reach a lot of people. And so as a result, go out and join as many Facebook groups that work for your industry because you can post content there and you'll get a lot more interaction. Now, here's the thing is
Exactly.
you got to be careful. You can if you walk into a group and you join a group and you immediately start sharing content, they're not going to like you. So you got to
True.
it's you got to spend some time dating before you get married, right? So
Right.
go in, develop a relationship in there, interact, and then you can start sharing content to those groups. And the groups will welcome you, especially if you're not selling.
Right.
content. You're just going and say, hey, I got content. Here's something I think I can help, further that conversation with this group.
Exactly. And make
That's
sure you
just
check
awesome.
out the group rules, because there's some groups that have formed because the owner of the group wants to promote their service or their products, and they're really cagey about allowing anybody to promote anything that they perceive as competition. But if it's a group like that, you could always ask the admin of the group for permission before you post something,
Good.
and then you
Yeah.
can stay out of
Great tip.
trouble that way. Yeah.
That's a good tip. All right. So a little bit of time crunch here. I want to ask about TikTok. So you've commented to me that using TikTok, even if you're not young or willing to dance, is a great place to still promote your ideas. What are you talking about?
Absolutely. Depending on the age group of your target customer. So you have to know who you even want to communicate with.
Yep.
And I have different products and services that are good for different platforms. But I do want to communicate with people who are in that younger bracket and younger. A lot of the people on TikTok, honestly, are under 15. I'm not looking for them. I can find them in the school system.
Right.
But
Right.
the algorithm on TikTok is so responsive that if you start using it, maybe the first 2 days you'll see children. But after that, TikTok learns pretty quickly what age bracket you're in, and you won't see them at all. So there are people who are parents that are on there. There is a growing group of people in their 30s and above that are there. So it's not all kids. They do dominate the platform, but there's a lot of older people there as well. And it's interesting. You would think that maybe you wouldn't be as popular if you're not a teeny bopper, but there are people I follow on there that are in their 80s. People love grandmas.
Oh
And
my God,
a lot
yeah.
of young people seek out wisdom from older people. I know with all this stress that's been going on, I've been like, oh my goodness, I need a grandma. I have a grandma with Alzheimer's and a deceased grandma. And so
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, where's the wisdom? Where are the older people? And you can find them there. So not all young people are looking for stuff from their peers all the time. A lot of time they're seeking out what you have to offer. So if that's the age bracket you want to reach, even if it's just you explaining like how to manage stress, how to balance a checkbook, literally no one knows how to do that anymore. If you think that's still something that's valuable, like if you have services that you think a younger person would need information about, like that's a great place to find them.
I love this. And I think what's fascinating is, number one, I love TikTok. In fact, I like getting on TikTok when I'm in the car and the kids are driving, and they can hear the quick clips of sound, and the same sort of soundtrack is used on various parts of it. So my kids already say, "Are you on TikTok?" Yeah, I love it. And what's amazing is it's a great way to travel because it is so entertaining. It is extremely entertaining. If I'm sitting in the office, I can't open it because I'll
Oh,
end
it'll
up getting,
suck you
oh
in.
my God, I'm lost. Yeah. So check out TikTok. I am gonna do a little fine print. The fine print is that the U.S. government has determined that TikTok could be stealing data, and they're not sure
Uh-oh.
of that. So if you're in the military, they have banned TikTok on all Defense Department devices. So for whatever that means to you, if you are comfortable with pulling up TikTok, I think it's very interesting. And I tell you, all the kids today are on it, and young people and young adults are there. It's a great place to pick up a recipe. You can go and look up recipes,
Oh,
and
that's
someone will
true.
show you how to make a great recipe, and you get to see it through the stages as they make it. Oh, it's fantastic. Little
There are
link gets you in there.
even doctors and therapists on there
Oh
just
my
dropping.
gosh,
There's
so cool.
such a variety. So, and you don't have to wait. So you go on YouTube sometimes and it says 10 minutes, and you know that what you need to know took a max of 30 seconds to say.
Oh my God,
You
you get it
just
quick on TikTok. Boom, you
exactly.
get it. I love it. Well, Dahlia, we have run out of time. I hate that, and I love that you joined us today to share your wisdom with us. So thank you for being here. I truly
Thank you
appreciate it.
for having me.
where can people find you? And what's important is I'm going to talk about that podcast. So talk about your
Yes.
podcast and where else can people track you down?
So the name of the podcast is School Nutrition Dietitian. You can listen on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you prefer, or you could just visit the site, schoolnutritionrd.com. And it's mostly professional development for people in food service management, but I do a lot on leadership and team building as well. So
Bravo.
they're relevant episodes there for people who are in business in general.
What about parents trying to understand how they can feed their kids better?
I absolutely want more parents to come on the show. I've done some episodes with parents to share what they would like the community of school nutrition professionals to know. So I definitely want to keep that conversation going in both directions. So most episodes aren't targeted at them, but I've done some on juvenile diabetes and celiac disease. Those are definitely for parents, like how to communicate with the school system and things of that nature.
Well, fantastic, Dalia. Thank you for being here today. We had your URL on the screen there, and we're going to put all this in the show notes. So if you're listening, just page down, there'll be a hot link there, and we'll have a few other links if you would like to track down Dalia. We'll have all the links of all of her social media accounts. So thanks again for being with us today. I love that you were here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. And so for the rest of you, know this, that here at How's Your ePresence, we're always interested in trying to help you on social media too. So if you find that this is just more than you have time for, give us a buzz. You can reach us at epresence.me. That's our website, epresence.me. And why .me? Because it's all about you. And we can handle all kinds of social media. So we manage personal, company, and collegiate social media. Collegiate means if you're coming out of college and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I understand TikTok, but I don't get LinkedIn. Give us a call. We have a program where we sit down with college students and we do an interview with them. We clean up a resume and we make sure that they're optimizing their LinkedIn profile. Your CEO that runs an organization, we can clean up your profile too and get you active. And in fact, your entire team can be activated by ePresence. So give us a buzz. Love to help you, as well as full company social media management. So as your organization needs to get out there to reach their audience, you're trying to figure out how you manage advertising. Should you hit the boost button? Let us know. We can help you with that. We'll make sure that your plan's rolled out in an effective manner and you get a great ROI. If you are a How's Your ePresence listener, we give all of you guys a 5% discount. So take advantage of that discount. Go to epresence.me/How's Your ePresence. There it's on the screen. epresence.me/How's Your ePresence. You go there, we'll give you an automatic discount just by listening to this show. Good. I'm looking on my notes. I think I've hit everything there. Here's the deal. Reminder, please subscribe to our shows. Please hit that button down there at the bottom of the screen on YouTube, because as we get more subscribers, we're going to help share this great message. This message today, think about this. What Dalia talked about, so valuable. I don't care what industry you're in. To hear that, gosh, I shouldn't spend time in groups on LinkedIn, but I should spend time on groups in Facebook. That's the kind of content that we want everybody to hear about. That's just super helpful. So subscribe, let your friends know to subscribe, because we're always trying to help those folks out. Also, we drop this on all podcasts, so you can catch us in every podcast app there is. You name it, be it iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud. We're everywhere. We're, in fact, even on the Amazon Echo, so you can connect us into your kitchen and we can catch you there. So we're always adding new content. Every week we're dropping new episodes. So please join us. Always interested in trying to help you guys out. So until next time, for my guest, Dalia Kinsey, my name is Mark Galvin, and this has been How's Your ePresence?